My name is Jeff. I'll be your host for this rousing episode of Nothing Happening Whatsoever, aka the Do Nothing Project. Um, our 6-year experiment that used to be over YouTube and still gets posted there. It gets posted there for those who are watch it afterwards. But now on Substack, which feels a little more coherent. Hey Emily, how's it going? Hey Rebecca. Hey Fred. Andrew, if you're there. Yeah, so I don't know, for those who just randomly found this on Substack, prepare to be underwhelmed. This is our kind of Sunday night regular meditation hangout. Um, People from really all around either tune in on this on the Sunday night or listen to it later in the week. And we do a 5 minute, 25-minute meditation. I usually do kind of a short introduction. Sometimes there's a theme, and often there's not. And then kind of wrap it up with some final goodbyes, and maybe sometimes there's a query in the comments. And anyway, it's been an amazing thing to have this, for myself over the years, and I think I hear often from the community that it's pretty supportive. Um, and so why is it? Of course, meditation itself is incredibly supportive. How else can you put it? Especially when things are insane, like they have been for me in my life in the past few years, and for a lot of us with everything happening. It's so much harder to implement mindfulness or sanity in the moment, to come to your center, to not be in reactivity. For me, if I don't have a practice outside the heat of the moment where I can just remember what it's like to come into my center, where I can feel the experience of myself settling, where I can have the experience of recognizing that when there are fewer thoughts in my experience, there are fewer problems, that it's so, until you really get experience meditating, you don't really appreciate how much noise there is in the system, just in the moment to moment, how much kind of subtle or not subtle reactivity and struggling and kind of this push pull quality that creates so much friction. And we're all just trying to live from that, and you're just not often at your best. At least myself, I feel like I'm more like at like 40% in that way, versus if I can just take time to let everything settle comparatively, right? Because of course it's different every time you sit, and you got different things that are in your life, but the comparative quiet and groundedness and sanity, the realization, oh, there's more space in my experience than I recognize. I have more perspective here. I have more room than I realized. It's like, okay, now I can go back into my life, and I have that understanding is there in the middle of things far more. And I can even literally find uh, that quality of sort of centered, grounded spaciousness, however it appears for you in your experience, because different people talk about it differently. I can find it there. And so the more I tap into that outside the hurly burly of everything happening, the more I can find it inside that. I mean, that really is the logic of a regular practice. And I don't think meditation is the only place to find it. People find it in other practices, but it is certainly available there in meditation. So that's kind of part of the idea this is our weekly hangout where we can speak to that and the importance of that, and then practice it together, um, and then feel supported by each other, feel connected in this life where it feels like there's so much disconnection and so much, um, like not feeling like you're kind of being thrown back onto yourself all the time. So I know I get a lot of this part of it. And even though I don't even see the comments all of them going by, especially now in this new format, when I just go by even faster. But anyway, I appreciate you all for being here. And if you're new, welcome to our community. So, so we'll do the usual highly underwhelming guided practice. But I thought today, I would say just um, a few words about at the beginning of a practice. I've talked about this really very much, but obviously there's the posture pieces, and at some point I'll do a full thing on posture. I'm not the expert on it. I just say do what's comfortable, sit in a way that's comfortable where you're still going to be alert. And you got to organize it differently depending on your body situation. So some people need to be lying down, and some people need to be moving a little bit. But what I wanted to talk about just briefly was um, kind of three pieces. Um, they all have to kind of do with intention. Um, it's the things you do, what begins the meditation before the meditation has even begun, in a sense. Um, and the first of these is the mindset of protecting the space, the mindset of making it a kind of ceremony or it's a practice. A practice is it's capital P practice, making it a ritual, whatever it works for you. But just this idea that, oh, I'm going to do this now. I'm going to go into in this case, there's only one space I can do in this house where the kids aren't going to instantly be all over me. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to light a little candle. I'm going to pick up my favorite meditation stone. I'm going to begin to get the seat ready. I'm going to smooth out the cushion. I'm going to fold the blanket. There's a sense in which the ritual is beginning before it's even begun. And I think the more we bring a quality of kind of deliberateness to the space as we go into it, whatever that looks like for you, the more it's what we're doing is we're basically showing reality via our consciousness that we are moving into this thing that's important to us, into this time that we're going to be respectful of this time. And it kind of sets up the meditation for more success in a way. It sets it up to have that extra charge. Um, and sometimes in doing this, I'll connect to an intention at the beginning, like, why am I doing this again? When it's totally rote, sometimes it is like that, but what if I can connect to an intention and go, oh yeah, I'm doing this so I can find more sanity in the midst and be a better parent. I'm doing this because I struggle with having self-compassion, and I'd like to try to connect to that. Or I'm doing this because the world is having a lot of challenges, and I want to be able to bring my fire to it in a way that is, um, that's going to be maximally effective and compassionate as well, or whatever that looks like. Like, really, why is it that I meditate? If we can connect to the why, and then make a kind of intention, like I'm going to, for this next 25 minutes, really try to commit to the spirit of this practice, whatever that is for you. I find that helps, if we just sort of jump in and it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to kind of meditate, kind of into it. And I wander off like, oh yeah, that's okay. And oh, well, and I guess now it's more of a wandering meditation. I'll just think about that. And, do you know what I mean? As opposed to just like, nope, I'm actually going to really try to, genuinely do nothing and do the experiment. Or so all of these kind of play together as a way of creating a certain charge, or a certain giving a certain power to the meditation. And the other thing I do at the very beginning is I often I imagine bringing in support and sending out that support. I imagine I kind of visualize the community that I'm connected to, and imagine breathing in that sense of connect. I kind of acknowledge it. I like to do because I've been so inspired by Buddhist practice. I like to do the what's called taking refuge, which is I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. I mean, in my mind, it means something a little different than in the classical text, but I just imagine for Buddha, for me, it's like any teacher that's been a support, old mentors, Buddhism. Like I imagine all these like cranky old meditators from the old days, from like I just imagine just like all the teachers, all the tradition of meditation. Imagine kind of breathing in that support. And Sangha is community, so that's what I said about kind of visualizing community. But I also sometimes include sense of my own history, ancestors. And then Dharma is just the way I think about that is the understanding that we live in addition to a spiritual material reality, we live in a spiritual reality that that consciousness is a mystery, and there are ways of orienting to that mystery that are profound and shift our alienation and show us there's a quality of meaningful contemplative magic in our everyday, and that I know this to be the true experience of things, and the more I orient to that, whatever that is in my language, the more I acknowledge that, that ends up really being this extra layer within the practice that really just for me makes it extra enriching, um, and I like connecting in that way. And I think that's what some people would say, that kind of would make it more, that these things I'm describing almost make it more of a spiritual practice as opposed to a straight up, hey, this is just like exercise for the mind, which is fine. You can have a total secular take on it and get just as much out of it. But I like activating those pieces at the beginning, and I found that they've made for a more um, they've just enriched my practice in innumerable ways. So I thought I would share that, and I'd be curious for people sharing here. Go back and look at it after about their own practice, how you think of it, like what stuff you do off the top around creating a kind of deliberate ritual of it, connecting out to community, the things you're drawing support from. Um, yeah, and then your intention. So let's do it. That was a lot of chit chat, but I was told that I should try to talk a little bit at the beginning before the meditation so people could have time to join in. So I also did that. I can also just jump right into it next time if you think that's a better way to go. Here we are, 25 minutes. Let's meditate, friends. All right. So, yeah, so you can imagine kind of gathering here already. The practice has generated a certain, it's like it's pulling in the charge. There's a beginning of a momentum of the practice. We're sitting deliberately here. The eyes are either deliberately closing or they're open, looking at the ground in front of you, or maybe you're looking out at a naturescape or anything. But there's a sense in which now we're moving into a practice, moving into a meditation. And what is the why of that? Maybe it's a quality of presence or open heartedness that you want to bring to your life. Maybe there's a particular situation you want to meet with one of those fruits of meditation. Just connect to the why briefly and the intention of how you want to really show up the next 24 minutes. You want to be very easy on yourself. You set the intention for this to be very gentle, animated by a spirit of compassion. Or maybe you want to be very disciplined in this next 24 minutes. This is going to be like a, you know, samurai training, or there's going to be that straight back, the practitioner really meeting the moment with complete equanimity and availability and concentration. So you can kind of set your intention here. And if it speaks to you, it's the moment you can imagine kind of whether it's the support of the community or the trees around you or a lineage, kind of acknowledging that. Sometimes if I'm in a hard, tough space, I ask for help. And you can make any of that your own. A few slow, deliberate breaths. And as you breathe in, stretch up. As you breathe out, that's the downward motion. The arriving, the out breath is the arrival. You're dropping down into the sense of having a body, feeling the breath at the belly, noticing the contact with the ground or the seat or the chair or wherever however you're organized. Breathing up from the ground, breathing out and landing a little more firmly on the ground. And here we are. So the art here is to be available to life without preference, in a sense. Even finding something kind of satisfying about the complete simplicity of what we're up to, the simplest quality of the breath, its softness, its the prospect of having your attention on your belly. Can you find that to be enough? Or to listen to a vent, to the home base, some deliberate thing we pay attention to is kind of a support in that. It helps us simplify the mind. And some people like to have no home base. They just sit and be in a way where you're just sitting and being. Sometimes the whole sense of being is the home base. It's something you're kind of noticing. So I'll be quiet for a bit and let you get settled in whatever way makes sense for you. Good. So And how patient can you be, especially here at the beginning? Things don't need to suddenly be perfectly quiet. It take a while to cool out. Mind wanders, you come back, just recommitting to being available to your present experience. A trick for getting absorbed is to get interested in the softest or quietest part of a sound or sensation. There's sort of an intuit quality, like getting into the sensation, enjoying it a little bit. And that can be there even with, challenging feelings and thoughts. You just, as best as possible, tune into some place that feels more comfortable. Good. So they're sitting, existing, attention maybe on like a breath or a sound or nothing at all. And sometimes a question I ask is, what's coming between me and things just being fine right now? In theory, there may be a way to just be noticing the breath and to be appreciative of the breath and not need anything more exciting. But often there's something about it that's challenging. Low level judgment or an expectation that something should be happening or some struggle or a mood or a feeling. And then, so just dropping that question in is kind of like just activating this sort of curiosity that can help illuminate the mind states. And then you don't do anything. You don't try to get rid of them. You just notice, oh yeah, that is here. And you go back to your exploration of the breath or whatever it is and see if there is in fact a way to be with it, where you don't need it to be anything other than what it is. And you're there with it. And as a matter of fact, it's fine. In this moment, it's all fine. Good. I'm just sitting here at this 0 point, kind of resting but awake, not going into drifty sleep, which is what we normally do, where you're not trying to upgrade the experience to make it more interesting, but kind of being radically okay with things as they are. And it's often unsatisfying to the mind. You kind of have to take it on faith that there's something about sitting here, not needing things to be otherwise, that's like medicine. In the last few minutes, you can add to that medicine with a little bit of a gratitude practice or a appreciation practice. Whatever flavor you're into, compassion, and kindness. I like just thinking about different things I'm grateful for to people, and I just sort of say thank you. I imagine I'm, sending them some affection. So you can do that. It's a couple more minutes. And the end of a meditation is kind of an opportunity to how do you want to come back? On a good note, an appreciative note, a note of gratitude, a note of just kind of quiet presence. Patience. That's our 25-minute meditation. 25 minutes of not much of anything happening, really. Thank you, friends. Here's our do nothing project. Stairway to ladder to nowhere. Apropos. Meditation, the ladder to nowhere. Yeah, good to hang out with everybody. Appreciate you. Hopefully that made sense what I was saying about. I'm just trying to get the hang of this. Substack feels a little different for me than the YouTube one. I feel like I don't know, just like maybe I'm not used to it, so I'm kind of like chat a little more than I normally do. Think I need to explain it or something, but I don't really. Anyway, I was trying to say there at the end was just it's so interesting meditation, right? Because it's not, the heart of it is nothing happening. You normally, when nothing's happening, you get bored and fall asleep, or you get bored and need to make it interesting. Gotta make something happen. But this is like, no, I'm going to stay right here inside that. And when you're really inside that, the mind can be like, okay, I found that. Why am I doing this again? According to all of my mind criteria, this is not interesting. It's not exciting. It's not entertaining. I'm not learning anything. I'm not. The mind just sits there and lists all the ways in which it's deficient. But that's because it's no mind there. That's the whole point. I mean, the mind's still there, but it's like, it's about saying there's a way of settling that's good for the whole system underneath all that rumination. And you kind of just learn through doing that that's the truth. Sometimes you get a flavor of it. You can feel the absorption or the sanity or a kind of a burning clean quality of things emptying out. Those flavors come up, but often there's no sense of it. It's just kind of you going, WTF? Why am I doing this again? Anyway, worth mentioning all that, I think. Good to hang out, friends. Oh, I've got some comments here, but yeah, totally. Yeah, Olivia. All right. Well, next one we'll do a little more minimal styles. And I think this gets, yeah, it gets, archived somewhere or other. Okay. Nice. I appreciate all these comments. Oh, thanks, Patty. Hopefully later people can look at those comments because there's so many interesting reports. Yeah, Simone feels a bit more disconnected from the community on Substack. Yeah, I wonder if there's a way I can do something about that. Anyway, feel free to send me a note about anything you're observing about all this. If you have ideas of how to, play with the medium to make it more, whatever, more extra community friendly. I'm still trying to figure it out. It's amazing how Substack has a lot of bells and whistles. Okay, peace out, friends. I'll see you next week. All right, I'll always stop this now. Yeah, well, we do the Zoom via the Hangout once a month is a Zoom. Maybe this will have to shift to that. I don't know. Okay, bye.